And welcome back to Kakuto Corner, guys. Second video up. I don't think I gave a proper introduction last time. My name is Mo. This is Kakuto Corner, the fighting corner. Like I said, second video, so we got a little bit of a catalog right now. But the first one was a bit of a proof of concept. This one, we really getting into what I want to do on this channel. I want to talk about Zuffa Boxing. You probably already know, you saw the title, so you know what it is. I want to have a bit of a nuanced conversation about it. I have real strong feelings towards Dana White, TKO, and UFC, but I actually want to give a fair, nuanced opinion of the organization. First, I'm going to talk about it as an entertainment product, and then I want to talk about the entity that is Zuffa Boxing and TKO. So first, I want to talk about the good. Honestly, I was entertained by the first three presentations or fight nights presented by Zuffa Boxing. They're really good fights, had a lot of great matchups, some squash matches, but it's boxing, that's par for the course. I just want to go over some that I really like. First off is my favorite of all three events, Julian Rodriguez versus Cain Sandoval. That's from Zuffa 1, the first Zuffa Boxing event. It was a classic pressure fighter versus boxer. Cain Sandoval throws a lot of punches, heavy pressure. Julian Rodriguez is on the back foot boxing beautifully. And Julian Rodriguez, the better boxer, the better overall technical boxer, won out. So that was a great fight. Second up, Sergey Bohachuk versus Rabzab Butayev. Two Eastern Europeans just swinging and banging. Like, it was a lot of technique, but it was just like brute force, like whose will is gonna take over. So Sergey Bohachuk wins split decision. This was from Zuffa 2, the second event. Next up, Damani Kato Kane versus Christian Perez. Two young guys. Damani seemed more like the explosive, more athletic boxer. He just edged Christian Perez. It was a good scrap back and forth. No one boxer actually separated themselves too much, but it was still entertainment. That was for Zuffa 2 as well. And then on Zuffa 3, Pei Benito from Hawaii versus Abel Mejia. This is like, I would say a technical brawl, like, if you can call it that. Pei Benito gets 2 knockdowns. The last one was like a nice, nasty counter right hand. Puts down Abel Mejia, and he doesn't beat the count. Referee waved it off. So those are just 4 fights. There's plenty of other fights, good fights, but those are the ones that just stuck out to me. Next, I want to talk about the signings. Who is on Zuffa Boxing? When Zuffa Boxing first turned up, the first mention of it was back in 2017 during the Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather press tour. They were, you remember, they were going on that world tour, conferences in different states, whatever. Dana White, actually, I'm gonna put the picture up on the screen. Dana White steps to the podium with a Zuffa Boxing t-shirt. This is the first time we ever heard of it, 2017. And which is really funny because after that whole conference went down, after the event, we never heard about Zuffa Boxing again. 10 years later, now here we are. So back then, Dana White was heavily ridiculed. They were like, Dana White's gonna get into boxing, just focus on UFC, blah, blah, blah. I kind of felt the same way. He was looked down upon as he tried to introduce this Zuffa Boxing entity into the world. So, like I said, 10 years down the line, we're here, and Zuffa Boxing is actually a thing. So my thought process when we first heard about this last year, 2025, who's gonna sign with this company? This is a UFC guy. He's running UFC under TKO. These are MMA fighters. What boxers, legit boxers, are gonna sign with him? At first, I was watching podcasts on boxing. They were thinking like maybe some retired MMA guys or some washed MMA guys would come in, like your Nate Diaz's, Nick Diaz's, maybe a Jorge Masvidal type, those types. And then you bring them in and they start boxing, which is like, to a boxing fan, that's not very appealing. To me, that's not very appealing, honestly. But apparently 3 events in and they have some serious talent. I want to specifically first off talk about the young talent they have. They have a lot of young talent. It's like, I was surprised to see how many young kids with like talent, like real talent, is on this roster. So I'm gonna just list some standouts to me. The first one that I was surprised about was Floyd Cashflow Diaz. Now, if you're a boxing fan and you was really tapped into boxing, Floyd Diaz was like one of top ranks. Like, this was like one of their golden children. Like, they was pushing him heavy. Like, they were all in on Cashflow Diaz. I think when he was younger, he was linked to like the money team, Floyd Mayweather and that crew out in Vegas. So Floyd Diaz, he's bantamweight 118. He's still only 22 years old. He's still a young kid, 14-0 from Vegas. And they got him under contract, which is crazy. Another one, a young Mexican kid, Oswaldo Molina, lightweight, 19 years old. They got this kid from Guadalajara, Mexico, 9-0. And what's unusual about this kid is like, he's a back foot fighter, like fighting off the back foot, a Mexican from Mexico fighting off the back foot, which is like really unusual to me. Like, he has a lot of talent, a lot of skill, but to me it seemed like he didn't have really that killer instinct. Like, he fought his man, his man was clearly outmatched, but like, he couldn't really do anything to step on the gas to get him out of here. But like I said, he's 19, so there's still time to develop there. Another one, a Robert Garcia product, which surprised me too. Robert Garcia put one of his boys on Zuffa Boxing. Emiliano Alvarado, super bantamweight, 122 pounds, 18 years old, 18 guys, from Palm Springs, 10-0, like real aggressive fighter. Like, he's 18, so like there's opportunities for him to tighten up his offense. But he looked like he can be like a real standout. I like what I saw from him. Another one is a kid that I've seen. Like, this kid has fought PBC cards, Top Rank cards, Pro Box TV cards, and that's Robert Meriwether III, lightweight, 20 years old. Another super young kid, man. This is crazy. Louisville, Kentucky, 10-0, slick American style, shoulder roll. Yeah, he's real talented. Like, he has a lot of skill. It just, like, I've seen him before. Like, I feel like he's another one, just like Molina was like, he can learn how to step on the gas. Maybe when he gets his man strength, he can get stronger and start putting some guys away, because he's clearly talented. Like, there's no doubt about that. And the last one, Troy Nash, another young American kid, 20 years old at lightweight, from Colorado Springs. He's 6-0, but with one draw. He participated in that WBC Grand Prix, I think last year and the year before. It was like this long tournament. He was knocked out because of like, he scored a draw, and then I guess the way the tournament works, like both people are eliminated or something like that. But I liked him too. Like, he has talent. Needs to work on the cardio. So it's like, and that fight in the Grand Prix, he slowed down a lot, which allowed his overmatched opponent to like just be aggressive and work his way back in. Which, props to him. He had a lot of heart. So, but Troy Nash, like, I'm gonna be looking at all these guys going into the future. Especially Floyd Diaz. Floyd Diaz seems like a guy, he had like a lot of stop starts to his career, and like hopefully he can be more consistent now. But with the ever-changing dynamic of the boxing universe, like, we'll see. And now I want to talk about like some other signings, like the major signings, like signings that I didn't think Zuffa would be able to like pull off. And most notably, everybody knows Jaya Pataya, cruiserweight champion, lineal cruiserweight champion. He signed, which is insane, like crazy. Jose Valenzuela, El Rayo, Vito Milnicki Jr., which used to be a top-ranked product. Former super bantamweight champion Mark Mixayo is signed. F.A. Jogba, who just headlined their last event, I think last Sunday. And one thing I wanted to, it's not confirmed signing, I just wanted to mention, at the last event, Teofimo was front row sitting next to Nick Khan, who I think is the CEO, or he used to be like the, I think CEO of WWE. He was working with them, but now he's like ahead of like TKO or whatever. But just know he's a big fish in TKO, and he was shoulder to shoulder with Teofimo Lopez front row. So I don't know, there might be another one, man. I know Teofimo Lopez, his stock is kind of down now because he lost to Shakur Stevenson, but I think he still has a lot of talent, and he still can make waves in this sport. Like, he's not finished by a long shot. So if they can get their hooks into him, who knows? But yeah, the events were, I actually like the events. I'm not even gonna get up here and cap. Like I said, I'm not really a big fan of the UFC, TKO, Dana White, but I have to be honest, they put on three great shows. So if you're a boxing fan, you just like boxing, you're not really into the political aspects of the sport, I suggest you check it out. It was great. Now I want to get to the bad, because it wasn't perfect. It was okay. It kind of balanced it out. It was great events, but then we got a lot of bad stuff on here. So at first, let me get this out of the way. I used to be a really big MMA fan. I still kind of check in and out like here and there, but I have knowledge of the UFC. And I remember watching the UFC, when I still watch the UFC, that Apex is absolutely terrible for fighting events. It's not a good fight venue at all. It's not an okay fight venue. It's not a so-so fight venue. It's a terrible fight venue. They need to get out of there. These guys talking about they want to do big in boxing. You can't put events in a glorified warehouse. Like, seriously, terrible. Like, if these events were in like maybe like a hall in like Southern California or something, somewhere else in Nevada, an actual arena, like San Antonio, maybe even a New York, like a Broadway boxing hall, these events could have popped off, man. Like, the crowd could have been great. This Apex, they want to push this so hard, it's terrible. Get out of there. Another thing, which is not new to Zuffa Boxing, this is like a TKO UFC staple, is making the fighters ordinary. Boxing is an individual sport. Like, we have stars in boxing, man. Like, you can't do this. And what I'm talking about is these ugly ass fight uniforms. Every fight, these guys either have black shorts, white shorts, blue shorts. And most of the fighters, not the A-sides wore their own gloves, but most of the fighters have these ugly ass black gloves with this big Z on it. It's terrible. So like, you can't tell any of these guys apart. They're all wearing the same thing, man. And this is by design with the UFC, man. TKO and like WWE, those guys, they want to make sure the athlete never gets bigger than the product. So they have to do certain things to make them ordinary. Same shorts, same gloves, and then like they will walk out in like these ugly gray ponchos, which looks terrible. Could you imagine a sport of boxing when you got guys like Mike Tyson with his towel with the hole cut in it, or Ali with his robe, or Canelo when he comes out in his poncho with the mariachi band? Like, imagine like having none of that, and those guys came out in all the same colors every match. Terrible. Stop. Don't do that. Another thing is like unconfirmed, but the pay structure. I feel that they signed a lot of these young guys because a lot of these young guys are hungry. They probably don't make that much on the regional scene, and And so when they dangle that, maybe that 20,000, 10 and 10, 10 to show, 10 to win, they dangle that in front of them, they grab it, and they think everything is all good. But then in the future, when they try to negotiate more, they're like, we don't know about all that. So I have questions about that. I can't really say it's a negative because it's TBD. Like, we don't know. We got to see in the future when these guys start getting bigger and bigger as boxing stars. One thing I noticed too is, like, I watched my first foray into the UFC was The Ultimate Fighter. And if you notice about The Ultimate Fighter and all these side ventures of the UFC outside of the UFC events themselves, they all have like the same UFC style promo. Like, you got a guy sitting there, hey man, I fight out of blah blah blah, and then you show him hitting a bag, and then you show him hitting pads, and you show him running on a treadmill. Like the same UFC style promo. If I got UFC fans out there, they'll know. Like, it's something like, if you know, you know, that type of thing. And then they brought that same bland promo style and just like copy and pasted it onto these boxers, which I'm not a fan of either. So yeah, that's my, like, I guess you could say, pros and cons of the first 3 events of Zuffa Boxing. Now I want to talk about the entity that is Zuffa Boxing under TKO, and I guess by proxy the UFC, because Dana White's running it. At first, I want to talk about the Ali Revival Act, American Revival Act. First, I want to insert a video here from a great journalist, Luke Thomas, combat sports journalist. He covers MMA and boxing. He broke down the main element of this Revival Act, and I'm going to show you the video, and I'm going to let him explain it. So listen up.
Set the premise of what's being argued. Understanding that framework, what is the central claim of this legislation? There's many different little things, but the central claim is a very simple acronym, UBO. And what that stands for is a Unified Boxing Organization. If this proposed bill becomes law, it actually doesn't strip out the protections of the Ali Act for everyone. No. The other promoters who don't qualify to become a UBO, well, it'll still all apply to them. All of those promoters would not be able to have their own rankings or make up their own titles or become their own sanctioning body or their own anti-doping body or their own anti-gambling body. Those folks, they would still be subject to the Ali Act. It doesn't actually change anything for them at all, but it does change it if you can become a UBO, a Unified Boxing Organization. It's actually really simple to understand. The basic idea is, what's a UBO? Imagine a UFC in boxing. You have your own titles. You have your own rankings. You're in charge of your own anti-doping, blah, 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 on down the line. If you can qualify for a certain set of standards that make you a UBO, we'll get to that in just a second, well, then you get exemptions. You can create your own title. You can have your own rankings. You have to meet a certain threshold in order to qualify to become a UBO. But once you do, you essentially act as something distinct from the way in which boxing works worldwide to operate within it in the United States. A unified boxing organization doesn't have to worry about the sanctioning bodies and doesn't have to worry about any conflict of interest between the promoter and having both the titles and the rankings and, coercive contracts and everything else. They're utterly exempt from all of that. So how do you become a UBO? Well, they listed just a bunch of different things that basically create a significant barrier to entry. You have to be able to provide training facilities. You have to have your athletes covered with a degree of accident insurance. You have to have a certain number of medical staff and doctors and ambulances on location, and a series of different things that, by the way, UFC already does all of these things. It already meets all of these criteria. To my mind, no other boxing promoter can do it. Top Rank does have a gym in Las Vegas, but it doesn't have insurance for their athletes. It doesn't have, in my mind, like, I think the law also calls for a degree of like rehabilitative services and physical therapy services in order to qualify to become a UBO. Obviously, the UFC Performance Institute already does all of this. Top Ranks Gym does not do any of that. And of course, you might be like, well, maybe they could just create those services, but understand something, as John Nash has pointed out, and again, all that content is linked below. The boxing promoters operate on much, much slimmer margins because they're giving all their money to the boxers, relatively speaking. They don't take home nearly as much to be able to provide for some of these resources. UFC is not encumbered by any of this. They are a monopoly inside of MMA. As we know, they keep 80% or more of all revenue, so they do have the margins to invest in these kinds of facilities. But one more time, look at what we're talking about here. You can be exempt from the Ali Act protections. You can be exempt from all these considerations if you already have basically the infrastructure that comes from having a monopoly in a sister industry. The existing promoters in boxing, maybe they can come together, maybe they can raise money, maybe they can do something else, but they, as it stands, would not qualify, and the vast majority of them would not have the resources to be able to do this kind of thing just on the insuring of their athletes alone. The UBO also gives an exemption to essentially what is considered to be the coercive contract in boxing, right? So in boxing, one of the things that the Ali Act was trying to solve for was a promoter can't say to a boxer, hey, if you want to fight my guy, you got to sign with me, right? If you want to fight my guy, you got to join Matchroom. If you want to fight my guy, you got to join Top Rank. No, the titles are independent. They carry that with them one way or the other, and the fight can be made independent of the athlete signing a promotional deal with that promoter. The proposed new law, again, it's a bill, but the proposed new law would eliminate this kind of thing for UBOs. A UBO automatically precludes co-promotion. You might say, hey, Luke, isn't co-promoting the lack of it, like there's not enough of it in boxing, already an existing problem? Yes, you'd be correct. This actually exacerbates it. And in fact, Eddie Hearn has already gone on the record to say he's trying to make even small-time fights that don't even air on TV, that they can't get the opponent that they want in certain cases because TKO will preclude them. This new law allows them to say a UBO athlete can only fight another UBO athlete inside the same UBO. So even if there was another UBO, that UBO fighter couldn't fight a different one. It all has to be contained within the same freaking universe. Folks.
So yeah, like he said, these UBOs, like, it's the new introduction into the sport of boxing. So my issue with it is how much control they have over the boxing community, or I guess the boxing stars that they will sign. Mainly, when I think about that, I think about a guy like Jai Pataya, who's constantly talking about undisputed, undisputed, undisputed. But if this new act is passed into law, that literally excludes him from fighting other fighters outside of the UBO, which is Zuffa Boxing. Zuffa Boxing qualifies as a UBO. So that's a weird thing that you hear Turkey and Dana saying they're not going to hold him back from pursuing undisputed. But if you read the language of the act that's being proposed, that makes that impossible unless those guys sign with the UFC, which I'm sure there'll be pushback over that, especially with the sanctioning bodies. So I'm not sure about that. This TKO Zuffa Boxing thing, what they're trying to do to the sport, I'm not a fan of. We have to see what the future holds. And mainly these guys like Eddie Hearn, Oscar De La Hoya, Bob Arum, if he's still around somewhere, and especially Al Heyman. These guys yesterday have to get in a room together and have a meeting. This should have happened yesterday. And they need to figure out what they're gonna do to combat this. They have to put the egos aside, stop approaching this arrogantly, stop going on Twitter or X, and then just sending shots at Dana White, which Oscar loves to do, because this threat is really serious. Like, if this Revival Act gets passed, like, the boxing world is in trouble. So these guys need to come together and try to see if they can combat this, like form a union between the four of them, and maybe bring boxing back to what it used to be, where it's like the best fighting the best. Because if TKO actually takes over like they say they're gonna do, I'm not too optimistic about the future of boxing. But let me know what you guys think. That's my time. Two videos in. I'm getting kind of used to this, and I hope you stick around and check out my content in the future. Thank you. Peace.